This lesson on quadratic equation, first of all, I spelled equation wrong, but I'm not going to stop and fix it, so that's okay. Is really not hard. It's just kind of weird, so follow along for just a sec. All right, we've talked before about trinomials, which is a three-term equation, and it has to be in what we call descending order of variables. Basically, that just means your exponents of your variables have to go from big to little. So you're going to have x squared, x, no x. And this is a typical formula you're going to see. And what that means is the coefficient or the number in front of the x squared is going to become your a value. The coefficient or the number in front of your x is going to become your b value. And the number with no x is going to become your c value. Now, the first thing you have to do is make sure they're in descending order, and that it is set equal to 0. Once they're in descending order of variables, and once it's set equal to 0, you can assign your values to a, b, and c, and those are going to come into play with what is called the quadratic formula. And this is the quadratic formula. It's never going to change. X equals negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac over 2a. And that sounds tricky and wonky and crazy, but it's not as hard as it seems. We're going to walk through one so I can kind of explain how this works. You're going to need to memorize that equation though. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So your problem, one of the examples says solve x squared plus 3x minus 9 equals 0. And here's what we're going to do. Number one, it's in descending order of variables. X squared, x, no x, and it's set equal to 0. So that means those coefficients are now going to become a, b, and c. The number with the x squared becomes a. The number with the x becomes b. The number with no x becomes c. So a equals 4, b equals 3, and c is negative 9. Make sure that you watch your signs or the operation, because that becomes your sign. So that c is negative 9. And then all we're going to do is replace those values into that formula, the quadratic formula. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. A is now 4. B is now 3, C is now negative 9. And I'm just going to plug those values in for A, B, and C and then solve it, which we'll do after I clear the screen. So really all you're going to do is you're going to use order of operations to now solve this. We've replaced negative B plus or minus B squared minus 4AC all over 2A with the values, and we're going to just walk through order of operations. Exponent first. There's no real parentheses, so then we did our exponents. Now we're going to do multiplication. Then we're going to add inside of that radical. Now, there is not a whole number square root of 135. If I type that in a calculator, I end up with some wonky decimal. And so what that means, the beauty of these problems, is that when I can't solve my radical sign, that is my answer. X equals negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 135 over 8. That's it. That's as far as I can go, and that's your answer. Let me show you one more just to be on the safe side. So you're going to be told solve, and here's my problem. 3x squared minus 4x equals 1. Now the first thing I have to do, remember, is put it in descending order of variables and make sure it's set equal to 0, which means I need to move the understood plus 1 over. When I move it over, it becomes minus 1. Now I simply assign my values. A is now 3. B is now negative 4. Watch your signs. C is now negative 1. There's my quadratic formula. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Plug those values in for a, b, and c. Then just walk through your order of operations and solve. I've squared it and multiplied. I did that in the same step. 6 plus 12 is 28. There is not a radical or a whole number answer to square root of 28. So that's it. That's as far as I can go, and that's your answer.